Let's talk about chords, baby. I tried to record this already, but I got a little too far off of the white keys. Onto a lot of black key kind of stuff, which I think maybe if you don't know a lot about piano or theory, is maybe a little harder. So I'm going to try to stick to as much white key theory as possible, which means the key of C major. But not the funky, weird key of C major that I just did. Just the regular old C major key. So, C major. The people's key, as we call it. We're going to talk a little bit about scales, which are groups of notes in ascending and descending order. We're going to talk a little bit about modes, which are the same thing, but basically starting on different notes. So, for example, and we're going to talk a little bit about chords, which, which are those. And we're going to use as many white keys as possible. Try to stick to the white keys. Okay. So, the key of C major, the people's key, we have, of course, C major, our first chord. And it's made by taking the scale of C major and playing every second note. So that's our C major chord. Doubled the root on the bottom, C major. An inversion of a chord means you take these same notes, and instead of playing C, E, G like this, you take this C, put it on the top, and I have E, G, C. It's the same chord, it's still a C major chord, but it's inverted so that the bottom note is on the top. We do that once more with the E, put that on the top, now we have G, C, E. So that's what we call a root inversion, because the root of the chord is the bottom note, C. And then first inversion, second inversion, back to root inversion, just up an octave. So, but it's all the same chord. I consider this is C major, that's C major, that's C major, that's C major, at least from an elementary music theory point of view. Now, what a mode is those notes of the scale, but starting on the next note, or the next note, or the next note. So, the C major chord has the first mode, which is, in Greek, it's the Ionian mode, or often just called the major mode, or the major scale. The next mode, or scale, is based on the next chord up. So I've taken the C major, and I've brought it up. Now, that's just a big hand inversion. I've just taken the F from this chord, and I've put it up an octave, and I've stretched my hand out real big, because it sounds better. Starting on D. That's D minor. What's the difference between a major chord and a minor chord? We'll play you with just the C. Here's a C major, here's a C minor. It is, in really lay terms, happy, sad. That one, So C major, all I'm doing is I'm taking the third of the chord, moving it down. So between the root third, there is 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, and a minor chord between the root and the fifth, root and third. There are 5 steps in a major chord. So major, minor, D minor, call that one D Dorian. The next one, E Phrygian, F Lydian, G Mixolydian, A minor or A Aeolian. B Locrian, C major. Just a note about Locrian. Don't ever try to write a song in Locrian. It doesn't exist. I can't even think of a song in Locrian. I can think of, there's a Björk song that's kind of in Locrian, but it's not really. But anyways, just don't think of Locrian. Doesn't exist. Anyways, that's a subject for another day. So every major key has what's called a relative minor, and the relative minor starts on the 6th degree of the major scale. The 6th degree means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or we started on 8, 7, 8, 7, 6. So our A minor, also known as A Aeolian, that's the relative minor of C major. So every major key, no matter what, if it were the key of F sharp major, the relative minor would be D sharp minor. If it were the key of, I don't know, E major, the relative minor would be C sharp, taking the E major scale, and I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, C sharp. But we're going to go back to the white keys. So in the key of C major, the relative minor is going to be the scale that's based off of the 6th degree. A minor. Now, talk about chord progressions for a moment. A chord progression, classical music and even Western pop music, we use, and jazz music and Nashville studio musicians and everybody really, we use like a numbering system for chords. So I think of this C chord as the 1 chord. I think of this as the 2 chord, D minor. Oops. E minor is the 3 chord. F major is the 4 chord. G is the 5 chord. A is the 6 chord. B diminished, B half diminished, as it's sometimes called, is the 7 chord, and back to the root, or 1 chord. In a minor key, those are all the same, except now you're starting on A. The 1 chord, A minor, 2 chord, B diminished, or sometimes called half diminished. 3 chord, C major. We're back to where we started, the C major, but we're calling it the 3 chord. 4 chord, D minor. 5 chord, E minor, but let's hold on to that chord and remember it because we're going to come back to it for a minute. The 6 chord is F, 7 chord is G, and the 1 chord again is A minor. So in a major chord progression, say a typical chord progression would go something like, I might say 1, 6, 4, 5. This is a very typical progression, which just means I'm playing the 1 chord, playing second sixth chord. So that's the chord that's based on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, A minor. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And 5, which is the next chord up. So that's a very typical chord progression. Or here's another one. 1, 5, 6, 4. Don't stop believing. That's actually, like, to be honest, that's like probably 70% of every song on the radio. 70 is not even a underestimation of every song on the radio is 1, 5, 6, 4. That's another matter. We could vary that a little bit. In fact, let's do that. Let's go with minor progressions. So we're back to minor, A minor. Now those chords we called them a 1 chord now instead of a 6 chord. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually 1 chord. That's all fine, but typically in Western music, and I mean by Western music I mean everything. This came from Western, like, madrigals and shit that was happening in the 14th century, and now it's everywhere, and every single music does it, from country, hip-hop, jazz, to Korean pop ballads, to Chinese music, to reggae, and West African, and any music that exists today does one thing with minor. And it takes that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chord, remember? And instead of making it an E minor, like it is here, it changes it into an E major. Everything else is the same. And the reason we do that is because our brains are programmed either, probably culturally, to be honest, but our brains are programmed to hear, oops, not that. The resolution of a 5 chord going to a 1 chord, and the 5 chord always being major. If it's a minor chord, it's not as strong. You would hear that in medieval music up until, say, the end of the medieval period, up until the Renaissance, and then they started doing this thing where they're going. Now, if you're writing like church monk music or something, then you will play the E minor. But any other music, you will play the E major, the 5 major chord. 5 chord in minor is always major. Any key, any style of music, anything you're doing, the 5 chord in your minor key is always major. If you did this and you're living in like the Spanish Inquisition or something, and you made a major chord of a 5 chord, you would literally get drawn and quartered, or, burn at the cross or something. But fortunately, we don't have to deal with that nonsense anymore, because literally every music does it now. It's called this interval, which is the basis of all Western music, was known as Diabolus in Musica, and would get you killed for using. That was the devil's interval. It summoned Satan. Satan, Where are you? Oh, okay. No, sorry, I didn't need to call you over. No, sorry. Sorry, I'll call you when I need you. Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm just doing a video for a friend. All good? Yeah. No, I'll see you on Wednesday. Doing poker? Okay, cool. All right, so that's how minor is changed from the typical modal minor to. So I've done one thing to the resulting scale, and that is, well, with this E minor chord, I basically raised the third, which means I've taken a G and made it G sharp. So I'm not entirely in the realm of white keys. I've got one black key. Instead of this white key, the G, I'm going G sharp. So we end up, if we play that as a scale, with a kind of an interesting scale. That's called a harmonic minor. The scale that goes from A to A, all white notes except for the G being a G sharp, is a harmonic minor scale. Well, harmonic minor is, it's obviously it's a very different sound. It's a very cool sound. But if I took that and were to make modes out of it, you would have, the first mode of A harmonic minor, which is A harmonic minor. B, I don't even have a name for this. I don't. Do I have a name for this one? I do have a name for that one. But we're not going there. The one that we're going to focus on is this. The one that's based on the E chord. Oh, do you remember that song? Gotta keep them separated. Or something like that. That was Offspring from the 90s. I think they just learned harmonic minor and just did that. Well, if we start the A harmonic minor, this is A harmonic minor, of course. We take that and we start it on E. Then we have what we're going to call E harmonic major, or E Spanish Phrygian, I like to call it sometimes, because I had a music theory teacher in college who called it that, and he would go Spanish Phrygian. So you can do that. You can take that on if you like. You can go Spanish Phrygian. That's the sound of the Spanish Phrygian, which by itself, to me, it feels like it wants to resolve to an A minor chord. But if we, so define one term. A minor is the tonic. The tonic is our home base. It's where our chord progression is leading to. We're playing the 1 chord, we're playing the 4 chord, 5 chord, 4 chord, 6 chord, 5 chord, 1. That's our tonic. Our tonic is our home base. It's where we're always going back to. It's the same thing in a major key. That's major, C major. That's our tonic, our home base. We're going back there. We knew that. You even heard it before I got there. You're like, oh, I'm waiting for the come back to that C major tonic chord. A minor is our tonic. If we take that Spanish Phrygian sound and play it in such a way that it becomes the tonic, then we get the flamenco sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trick your brain into thinking we're in the key of E major, and then I'm going to play. You're like, whoa, that was kind of unexpected, wasn't it? You're like, that's where we get into that cool flamenco or Arabic kind of non-Western sounds, when we turn that chord into our home base, the chord that we're going to land on. Rather than the chord that's going to somewhere, it's the chord that we're going to. So, in that sense, if I were to make chords out of it, like I did before, I would keep all of the white keys. The only time I would go to this raised G, the G sharp, is when I came back to that tonic. So, E major, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished or sometimes half diminished, C major, D minor, E major. I'm only changing one chord from that original A minor. I'm only changing one chord from that original C major. But now I'm calling this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So if I'm going to make a chord progression out of that, I know, except for this chord, any other chord is going to be alternating notes, white keys. Oops. So for example,